You're listening to Swingology, a lifestyle podcast. Swingology is for adult entertainment only, and we're not licensed professionals. Our show features adult themes, language, and descriptions of sexual acts and desires. If you're under 18, this is not the show for you. The ideas and opinions expressed are those of the speaker only and not of any company or entity, and should not be considered professional advice. Now, let's stimulate your mind. Welcome back to another episode of Swingology, a lifestyle podcast. We are your host, Tori Kist.
And Steve Kist.
And today we're talking about day 6 on the Bliss Cruise 2024. And it started off on our way to brunch. We ran into a fellow listener and he said, "Hey, aren't you the Swingology podcast people?" And I said, "Yeah, that's my baby. That's my podcast." And he said, "I listen to you guys. I listen to other podcasts too." And I'm like, this is so awesome. Well, that just made my day, being able to organically find a listener. It made me feel special because I don't get paid for this. This is just a hobby that I love doing. Yep. So thank you for saying hello.
And as the guy in this scenario, I thought your wife was sexy. And just so you're sure you know who you're talking about, you were wearing the shirt, "I woke up sexy as hell again." Which, of course, naturally. So we did breakfast at the Windjammer Buffet. And then what do we do after that?
After brunch at the Windjammer Cafe or Buffet, we came back to our cabin to finish the podcast, I believe, from yesterday. We spent some time on the balcony, and we overlooked the balcony to see, all the sights and the side of the ship. And we noticed a few cabins down from us, this guy was holding a bird outside of his balcony. And my husband was like, "That's a bird?" And I looked. He was holding a bird outside his balcony.
It was a pigeon, and he was holding it over the railing, like his arms extended.
Like there's some sort of ritual release of a bird or something. It was like, wait, what are we looking at right now?
And so I sat there and watched this guy hold this bird for a good solid minute. And then he released it. And then I heard like one or two people clap and then like, yay. And then that was it.
It was really peculiar, but...
It was peculiar. That's a great way to describe that.
Exactly.
I want to know more, but I don't think I'm ever going to get an opportunity to figure out what that was all about.
Who knows? But yesterday we were in port. We were in Cozumel, Mexico, and we had an amazing shore excursion scheduled. We were going to go hike or explore the Mayan ruins, and then go on a chocolate tasting. And that was going to be spectacular because I love chocolates. I love chocolate tours. I love chocolate factories and learning the history of the culture. But it was canceled the night before. We got a voicemail on our cabin phone and it said, "Your excursion has been canceled." Boo on that. So we decided to just, stay on the ship. Oh, actually, my husband, Steve Kist, had a date with a hot wife. Now, her husband gave her 2 hours.
No.
Well, let me finish. Her husband gave her 2 hours to be a hot wife to 2 different people, 1 hour increments. So on the ship, she could pick 2 people for only 1 hour to be a hot wife. And then he was doing the same thing, and they're going to join together and tell each other the story. So my husband was picked as one of the 2. And Steve, could you tell me about it?
Of course. So I went to the cabin. She was there waiting for me. She was decked out to the 9. Before I went to the cabin, because this person's cabin was conveniently on a ship this massive, literally 3 doors down from mine. I was literally just going to walk over there in boxers and just be like, "Hey, I'm here." But I remember something that my wife had said once before is like, "Shame on you. Don't you dare walk over there and actually put some effort into your appearance. You're like a gift and you should present yourself as such. I'm like, okay. So I got dressed up and I thank God I did, because when I opened that door, when she opened that door, she was in a spectacular lingerie outfit. Her hair was put up. It was in curls. She was high gloss makeup. Like she looked like she was getting ready to go out into formal night, but like in sexual lingerie. Like she looked amazing. I was stunned, like a little bit, like, wow, like thank God I'm not standing here in my boxers right now. Jesus. We had great, amazing chemistry. It was a lot of fun. It was fun.
What was fun about it?
So, I told her a little, so it was kind of like a last minute, like, hey, are you good with this? Yes. She showed me her toys that there were options available. Like, listen, if you want, we can, this is my toy. I tend to use it a lot. It's like a compact version of your womanizer. Mm-hmm. And that's the only one she likes to use. And there were a couple other options. She had her own lube choice there. We just jumped right into it.
You jumped right into it.
Yeah.
Did it start on the couch, on the bed, the doorway, with the door open?
Started on the bed. So we had 15 minutes of rough, aggressive sex. And when I say rough and aggressive, I mean like I was pulling her hair. I had my three fingers in her mouth. I grabbed a hold of her jaw.
She loved it.
I pulled her head to the side, and then I was using her jaw as like leverage to move my body against hers.
Wow.
And she was loving all of it. Right?
That's awesome.
So that kind of sex lasted for about 15 minutes. And then I started having performance issues.
Okay. As you would on day 6 of a freaking Bliss Cruise.
Right. I'm kind of sexed out, to be honest. I walked into that worried, like, listen, like, I've been having so much sex on this ship. Like, I don't know if I'm going to start, I'm like bangovers. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if I'm going to work right now. So I transitioned into oral and finger stimulation for a while. She squirted 2 times during the next 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then she transitioned me over to the couch where she started giving me oral again.
Okay.
And then while she was giving me oral on the couch, she was making eye contact. Again, she still had the lower garter set of her lingerie piece on. I wanted that to be left on.
Yeah.
Just looking at that, and we were already developing like a little bit of like personal chemistry at that point. And then, of course, I got hard again, and then we went right at it again. Mm-hmm. And so she was an amazing sex partner. And, thank you to, I don't want to say names, but thank you for that. So when I got done with that, like literally we played until like, she's like, we've got 2 minutes. You got to get out.
I love it.
It was like that. It was like she's like, we got 2 minutes. You got to get out. I'm like, oh crap. Okay. So
that's awesome.
I got dressed and, I ran out the door, and she's like, if I get another opportunity, I'm going to call you.
Now, when you were doing that, I made my way to a quiet nook. Absolutely nobody was there. It was the top of Dazzles, the balcony of Dazzles, which is one of the clubs here, and the music was on. And I did some stretching. I did some meditation because it was peaceful. It wasn't crazy clubby or anything. Most of the people were off the ship. They were over on the port, so the ship was pretty empty. And then I made my way to the gym, and I walked the track, and then I made my way to the sanctuary spa and relaxed in the steam room, took a shower, made my way to Schooner's Bar, and that's exactly when you found me. I sat down for maybe 2 minutes when you said, I'm on my way. I'm like, okay, well, this is where I'm at. Mm-hmm. So then what did we do after that?
I think we did more lounging on the ship. We were looking at the views.
That was 1:30, 2:30.
Yeah, and then hung out and lounged until it was about dinner time. Mm-hmm. Where did we eat dinner? I don't even remember.
Wow.
I don't even remember where we ate dinner. Was it the main dining? It was main dining.
I wore my mermaid outfit.
Yes.
It was about the afternoon that I realized I had a sore throat that was persistent and I was getting all stuffy. So I felt like I've kissed too many people. I'm starting to get a traveler's cold that I should probably start to take it easy. I don't want to spread any sickies. So I knew that night I wasn't going to be partying late. Didn't want to hold back. Steve, of course, he always has a hall pass, as do I, but I didn't want to spread anything around. So we had an early dinner and skipped dessert. So far, we haven't had very good dessert on this ship. That's okay. We are the dessert. So after I called it a night, what did you do, Steve?
I kind of hung out in my room for a little while. I was active on the Telegram chat threads a little bit, just kind of like chatting back and forth. There was remember from the podcast on the last episode, there was a redhead that I had met in the cafe. We had agreed that we were going to have a play session tonight after midnight. And so as it's approaching 9 p.m. or whatever, I had made contact with her and said, hey, my availability kind of opened up. I'm available anytime between now and midnight, and it doesn't have to be after midnight. And she said, okay, great. How about I meet you after the King and Queen show, which is basically like a band. We'll connect. I said, great. In the chat, there was a lot of offers being tossed around by husbands, by wives, looking for fantasies to get fulfilled, all kinds of things. I wasn't sure, which direction or if I wanted to participate in anything until a single woman says, it would be fun if I actually read, and I'm pulling it up now. It says, I need a massage. I'm not going to lie. I'm feeling a bit lonely right now and could use some good old-fashioned TLC. And so in this picture she shows of herself, she looks like a Hispanic lady, late 30s, height, weight proportionate. She looks very attractive. She's in an all-white get-out. Of course, she immediately got a lot of comments and says yeses and that kind of thing. I threw my name in the hat and said, I'd be interested in giving you a massage, no agenda, blah, blah, blah. And she said, yes, here's my cabin number. I'm here waiting for you.
Oh.
I was like, okay, I'm on my way. I went over there with no agenda. Again, I was having performance issues earlier.
Right.
So I just figured that trend was going to continue.
Right.
I wasn't thinking about it playing at all. So I just went over there. I was like, I'm just going to give her a massage. This is something for me to do while I wait for my redhead appointment to arrive.
The little red hair girl.
Exactly. I say redhead. I don't want to use her name, so I'm just using that to categorize. Anyway, I arrive and she was pleasant. She said, I just got started right to it. I started giving her a massage I started with her hips and legs and feet, and I got to the butt area. Mm-hmm. And I noticed something that was odd when I was giving her the massage. I was looking probably a little bit too closely, and she was like, what are you looking at? I'm like, not sure. I kept massaging her a little bit, opening the area between the cheeks. And then I realized there was probably maybe something to be concerned about here.
Okay.
I continued the massage on the rest of the body first. I was like, listen, this is gonna ruin her evening.
Right.
My conversation.
In your head, you had this.
In my head, I'm like, this is gonna ruin her evening. So I gave her I was like, okay. I gave her a massage on her back, her shoulders, her arms. I had her turn over. And I was like, listen, I would like to take a picture and show you something.
Okay.
And I'm sorry. I told her I used to be an EMT.
Yeah.
I told her I'm not licensed anymore. I don't know anything. I'm a guy off the street. I have no certifications.
Anymore.
But.
Right.
And I showed her a picture and I said, this looks like you're starting to develop genital warts around the ass.
Oh, no.
And so I took pictures. I showed her. And of course, she, started like having her moment.
Yeah.
I suggested that she goes. I said I was sure there was a doctor on the ship, and she, instead of just freaking out and waiting until she gets home, seeing if she can get a second opinion, because my opinion means shit.
Yeah.
And if there's nothing to worry about, then great, and then she can go on and continue having a great time. But obviously,
yeah,
that was. I can't imagine how she'd be feeling right now, but
right.
I figured it was a bit better to tell her.
Exactly.
Rather than just say nothing and then leave,
Mm-hmm.
So after I left that cabin, I meandered over to the park area of the cruise ship, and I found a little quiet nook, and it was drizzling outside, so my little nook had a huge glass overhang in it. And it was the only place at the park that had dry seats. And they were couch with cushions. So I was like, I'm going to be here for at least an hour while I'm waiting for the Kings and Queens concert to end. And I didn't want to come back to our cabin because I know you're either sleeping or you're out and about.
You said I was snoring before you left, so I was out.
You come in and out sometimes.
Sometimes
and
I do.
You bounce back, you rally. Sometimes you're gone and you're out, and who knows?
And you didn't want to go to the Kings and Queens concert because we're not concert type of people.
Yeah, that's not my thing. So I just waited there. I was there all of 3 minutes before a woman came down in the couch next to mine, and she was in tears.
Oh, well, you always come to the rescue in moments like that.
Oh my God. I looked over, and she looked over at me, and she goes, "How's your night going?"
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I'm having the time of my life, and I'm not trying to rub it in.
Oh my God.
And she's like, I'm having the worst day of my life. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me what's going on. And she's like, you tell me what's going on in your life first. I need to live vicariously through you, apparently.
Love it.
And so I told her a little bit about myself. I told her about the podcast. I told her about our relationship and about how my experiences with the various people we've had on the ship. And she starts like, okay, so you know about this, you know about that. She starts answering like, or affirming comments with a very intellectual mindset. Like
Love
she
it.
knows about counseling and she knows about various things. And the way she talks made me think like she was some kind of counselor or whatever.
Okay.
And come to find out, she is or was in a poly relationship.
Okay.
So she's married, and her newer poly partner and her husband were all on the ship.
Yeah.
And I guess her and the poly partner were having some difficulties. Like that night, she went to the bar, and the poly partner had broken up with her.
Oh, no, on the cruise.
So that is the second relationship that had ended that we know about. That ended on this cruise.
Ouch.
I mean, at least she still has her husband. And so her husband's still on the ship. And so, I mean, we talked about polyamory a little bit and how it started for them. And at some point, I got a message from my redhead date that she was out of the concert and that she was on her way to the room.
What room?
Her cabin.
Oh, okay.
She had mentioned before that she might be willing to try the playroom.
Okay.
But I had scouted the playroom out.
Yeah.
And it was jam-packed full because the solarium playroom was closed because of the wind and rain.
Yeah.
Because of that, I was like, listen, if there's any way we could use your cabin, that would be much better because the playroom is shut down. Or it's not shut down, but it's so packed. We're going to be standing in line for 45 minutes waiting for our bed to open.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we can use my cabin. That's not a problem. Just, I'll be there in 5 minutes. I'm like, okay. So I get there. It's around 11:40. The person who opens the door is the husband.
Okay.
I was not expecting him to be there.
Okay.
He says, oh, I was just leaving. I looked him in the eye, shook his hand. I said, thank you, sir, for allowing me to be a part of this and pleasure your wife.
I love that you did that. See, people don't do that very often, and that brings a smile to my heart. Thank you for doing that, babe.
I think he appreciated that, and then he didn't make a big deal about it, and he just continued on. I get in there, and this beautiful redhead is very eager just to jump right into things. I can tell. She's approaching me. She's getting rich. And I was like, ho, let me just stop you right there, please. Can I just please use the bathroom? Because again, I've been at the park sitting there waiting for a while. I just needed to use the restroom. Peed, washed my hands, came back out, and of course she's ready to go.
Yeah.
I was like, before we start, can we sit down and just have a quick chat? And she's like, sure, yeah, of course. I'm noticing as I'm looking around the room that there are all kinds of things going on in this room.
Okay, what?
I'm noticing that there is a very thick leather whip. There are floggers of various thicknesses. There's clamps. There's paddles. There's things that I couldn't identify on the walls. And I'm like, okay. And so I had questions, and I didn't know where this play session was going. I didn't know what she was hoping for. I didn't know what she wanted.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so I just want to know, what are your boundaries, limits? And she talked about her red, yellow, green system. There were green, yellow, red. And she told it to me like I was someone who hadn't heard it before.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't get a whole lot of pre-play information except that condoms were absolutely necessary, which was fine, of course. And then we kind of jumped into it. So I started a little bit with some sensual play. And then kind of gave her the same energy I had given the woman before. The rough kind of fingers in your mouth. I'm going to grab your jaw. I'm going to pull your hair. Primal. Yeah, that primal sweaty on top of you energy. Her body was very responsive. Like every little thing I did to her like caused a reaction on her body. And I really liked that part.
Did she give you good eye contact?
Yep.
Oh, that's
she
hot.
did. She had several orgasms, and I was very happy about that. And I thought she had one that seemed to go on for a couple minutes, which I thought was amazing. I would love to ask her about that.
That's amazing.
But at some point, and there wasn't a time limit, but it seemed like there kind of was. And do we need to cut this short? Because she was still enjoying it. She just finished an orgasm.
Yeah.
She said that her husband's basically out there with no plans, waiting for us to finish. And I was like, oh, okay. And so we jumped into the shower together, and these showers are kind of small, and it was a really confining space, but it was fun.
Okay.
We soaped each other up. We made out a lot. I went down on her, even in the confining space, and it was still a lot of fun, and we had a great time in the shower, and the shower was almost just as great. Just the
Two
banter.
people in a cruise ship shower by itself is amazing. And then being able to kneel down and go down on her inside of the tiny shower.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so there was a lot of like, you know, by that time we were developing a little bit of like a banter chemistry and that kind of thing going on back and forth. And it was an equally good play session like I had earlier in the day.
Awesome.
I left the cabin. At that time, it was 1:15-ish. I'm on my way back to our cabin because I'm like, I'm done. There's nothing else that's going to happen here.
Right.
I'm about to walk into our door. There's a group of 4 people walking by behind me, and they stop and they're making noise and commotion. And I turn around and I'm like, what are they doing? Why are they just standing here?
Yeah.
They're looking at the door across the hall from us, and it's ajar.
Oh.
And one guy gets the courage to open the door and peek in, and he walks in, and his I guess his partner peeks in, and then they both kind of skedaddle out real quick. The door shuts, and it shuts hard, and that kind of freaked the group out. So they ran down the hallway like, "Oh my god!" And so they all the 4 of them run. The door opens up while I'm standing there looking.
Oh no! So it looks like you did it.
Because I immediately pointed down the hallway, and the guy looked, and he saw like the people like
scaring off.
Yeah, they didn't run too far, but they stopped and looked back, and they made eye contact. I was like, I'm not going to be a scared little boy. I'm going to go in there, and so I went in there. There was a threesome going on with a woman and 2 men. I just sat at the door and watched and enjoyed the show and the wife receiving pleasure. Eventually, they stopped after about me of watching for 15 or 20 minutes. I made no moves. I made no requests. I just stood there. The first person to speak was the woman. And she looks over at me and she goes, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Well, my name's Steve. I'm the guy across the hall. We've seen each other a couple times." And she goes, "Okay." And they introduced themselves. And then they apologized. And they're like, "Did you hear our fight the other day?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, I didn't hear your fight the other day, but I saw your note on the door that says we had a fight," and, you know.
Yeah.
And then they talked about their fight and why they had it. And their fight was a result of, essentially, they're not comfortable with hall pass situations.
Right.
But they end up in them all the time.
Okay.
And so they're dealing with jealousy issues. And when I say they, she is specifically.
Okay.
Another thing that hampers their relationship is when he is pursuing a girl like at work or whatever, and they go off and do something, or the fact that he's interested in her over and over and over again.
Right.
The wife just decides to go out and I'm going to go play with some random guy then, and I'm going to go right now. And then she'll send him, "Oh, he says he's going to take me to the hotel room. Oh, he's taking off my pants right now." And she's trying to, like, you know, antagonize him with like this. And another thing that they deal with when they're trying to organize a hall pass things is like she'll have 10 opportunities for hall pass and she won't even have to try very hard. And he has to put in so much effort for maybe some kind of possibilities that come around. And so it's not balanced. Like she can go out and play in the hall pass situations whenever she wants. And it almost has to be kind of dropped at his feet.
Right.
I used to be in that situation in reference to being with someone who would always have those kinds of opportunities and me not so much, because it's harder for guys to be able to engage.
Are you referring to your previous relationship?
Yeah, a previous relationship. And I also told him, I was like, "Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I used to be completely bald and with no facial hair." And I showed him pictures of our wedding. Mm-hmm. And I said, "This was me for a whole year of our marriage."
Is that what he looks like?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I said, and my wife told me she wanted me to grow a beard. And I did, for her, hating it at the time. But I told him, I was like, the interest in other women to me kind of like skyrocketed a little bit.
It really did.
It did. And so I'm like, that was number one. And like, no, don't get me wrong. There are a few women out there that would prefer and only like completely shaved, bald-headed men. They're out there, because I remember talking to one or two of them when I was in that type of appearance. But by far, I've received way more attention now with my facial hair than without it. And so I gave him that little tip. And then I also talked about confidence. And I used the example of the couple we met on this cruise ship where the woman was outgoing and social, and of course she was attractive and getting all the attention, and the guy was just kind of mute and there. He could participate in conversation, but he's very passive. And I was like, so women like confident men.
Yes.
Women want to know they're going to have a good time in the bedroom. And if you're putting out passive energy, you come across as a guy that's going to put out passive energy in the bedroom, a woman that's going to have to do all the work, and they don't want to do that.
At least equal passion. Maybe you don't have to overpower my passion, but at least give me something.
Right. So if you're not going to give my wife anything to show her that you're interested in her, if you're not going to put moves on her, if you're not going to flirt with her, if you're not going to do the respect thing and ask to break the touch barrier, if you don't make any of those moves, nothing's going to happen because she's not going to do that. And this is the kind of guy that wants to know that the women want him before he starts making moves.
They give me the long eye contact. Give me something to go with.
Right. And so again, this guy seemed like he was that kind of guy. Like he was waiting, because there's a lot of guys that like, I want to be respectful. I don't want them to think that I'm aggressive.
There's ways to be respectful and show that you're interested.
Right. And I'm like, you don't need to be aggressive, but you also need to show them that you're confident and that you desire them. And so you've got to figure it out.
Some women love that though, because they can just dominatrix them.
Yeah. I must have spent a good hour plus in their cabin.
Wow. Just talking?
The husband and wife in that room, and then the guy also, because apparently the guy is local to the area.
Okay.
And we all had a great time just chatting about experiences. And at that point, I'm like, geez, now it's like approaching 2. I'm done. I'm going back to my cabin. Yeah. And then the night closed out.
So here we are, day 7, the final day. All day we will be at sea. There are pool parties going up on the sun deck, and we are pale people, so we try to stay away from the sun. So we'll be finding inside shade type parties or things to do today. I'm not quite sure if we're going to be able to record a podcast tomorrow all about today, because tomorrow is disembarkation day and we have a 5-hour drive back to our home. Then we have to pick up kids and dogs and unpack and start our regular daily life. So this might be the end of the Bliss series.
I don't think so, because I think tonight is going to be off the chain. Everyone's going to be partying hard. It's the last night on the ship, and there's going to be way more stories to tell.
You know, the confusing part to me is that we have baggage claim, right? And so if you're on a cruise ship, you have to put your bags out at about dinner time. So we all go to dinner wearing our dinner clothes, and we come back and put on our lingerie, and then we have our disembarkation clothes. Like, we still have so many outfits. So how are we going to put our bags out for baggage claim when we still have so many hours left to party? I don't know how it's going to work out.
So something that I woke up to this morning was a message from the woman of my afternoon play session.
Okay, on your phone?
Yes.
Okay.
On my phone. How I came across this whole play scenario with this woman to begin with was the husband had made a post in one of the Telegram group chats, and I sent a message, and I'm just going to read it right from my phone. I said, "Hello, my name is Steve. I do hold a hall pass, and I am available for solo play. I do consider myself a pleasure dom," and I gave a couple descriptives of what that means to me. I sent several pictures, and he says, "Great, reach out to her directly, please, and set up a meet for a vibe check." And so he sent her contact information. We met at the cafe, I believe it was the day before yesterday, and we agreed that we were going to meet in the afternoon for play. So after the play session, I said, "Sir, thank you for allowing me to pleasure your wife." And that's all I said. And I sent that at 3:38 p.m. It was 9:55 this morning when I got a response from him.
Okay.
And it says, "Hey, thanks for doing a great job. I heard you got to do a protracted orgasm and got a whole minute out of it. That's awesome. You are less than 1% of guys that have even tried. If you are ever curious about what all that entails, let me know. It's my biggest kink. Have a great last day."
Aw.
And I said, "Of course, I'd love to hear more about that." And he said, "Great, connect with me after 2:30 and we can get together and I'll talk about it." I said, "Perfect."
That's awesome. What time is it right now?
It is 12:35.
Well, that sums up day 6. Stay tuned. Hopefully there's a day 7.
There's going to be a day 7. Thank you for listening to everyone out there. If you have any questions you would like to ask us about the Bliss Cruise or about
ethical non-monogamy in general,
or polyamory with our limited information as it is, please send your questions to
Tori Kist, xxx@gmail.com. You can also reach out to us on Instagram, Swingology a Lifestyle Podcast, and Facebook, Swingology a Lifestyle Podcast. Stimulate your minds. Thank you so much for listening to Swingology. I'm truly honored to have you as a listener. If you liked what you've heard, consider subscribing to our podcast or connecting with us on social media. The links can be found with the episode show notes. This is Tori Kist, reminding you to stimulate your mind.